Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted, episode 267, the post-Super Bowl edition. Now, we're tired too. We watched the game. Whew. A lot of sermon illustrations will be coming next week. Atlanta and Falcons and Patriots. You know it. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's February 6th, 2016. 17.
Okay, this show is going to be a little looser than our average show. We're going to call it the WYSIWYG Show. What you see is what you get. George is at home at his kitchen table with a head cold. He's not feeling well. He's doing big baritone. I have customers calling left and right, but sometimes the news is just too important not to get out. Generally, if George and I are not having a good day, we don't record. That's why you don't see us every week. George is a full-time priest running a growing, vibrant church. He doesn't have a lot of time for Anglican Unscripted. I run a business, can't, always sit down.
Kevin.
What's
it's
that?
not that I don't have enough time. It's just that you are so strict in your standards
Yes,
that 90% of what I say makes it onto the cutting room floor.
We're doing this a whole show. I really, that's true. That is a standard that I must say, nope, can't do that. No snot mucus on the show. So, and we have a lot to talk about. A lot has been breaking out there in Anglican newsland since last week, basically trying to discuss what did the primates really discuss and agree to last year in Canterbury. Why is this important? Because we kind of have 3 or 4 different stories forming out there in the Anglican news world, in the Archbishop of Canterbury world, in the head of the ACC world, and in the factual news reporting world of Anglican Inc. and Anglican Unscripted. So we want to bring everybody up to speed, and make sure you know what really happened, why they're trying to do what they're doing, and what might happen at the next primates gathering in Canterbury next October. First, George, as you remember, I went off to Canterbury in January. I don't know what I was thinking. It rained almost every day. There was this brutal wind coming out of the east every morning, and it was miserable. The primates were gathered away at Canterbury Cathedral. I didn't get to see them until the press conference. And sometime during that time, they had a little discussion about what to do about the Episcopal Church. Apparently at one luncheon early on, Michael Curry sat together with Bishop Manieranice, and they started to hammer out a super secret probation for what would happen to the Episcopal Church for a short period of time, until which time a task force could sit down and officially determine what to do with provinces that don't really want to abide by long-term theology of the Anglican Communion.
It was a two-step process.
Yeah, a two-step process.
Curry and Munir-Nice basically agreed that they wanted to walk together. And then the primates as a whole worked out what the sanctions or intermediate disciplinary actions would be while we put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So the first step was a realization by liberals and conservatives that this is too important to allow to fall apart, so we're going to try to fix it. And the body, in other words, it wasn't a stitched together compromise, but the consensus of the opinion of the primates was the Episcopal Church would remain within the communion, but it would not be permitted to hold itself out as a spokesman for the communion in interfaith and ecumenical relationships, and within inter-Anglican bodies like the Anglican Consultative Council. It could not participate in discussions of doctrine and polity and discipline. That's what was decided upon.
It was. So we leave Canterbury. I come back to America, And we know Lusaka is coming up. That's where the entire ACC was going to fly into Lusaka, Africa, and sit down and do the things they do, which are basically, United Nations level stuff, and some polity stuff, and some, kind of voting on high about the Anglican Communion. So this would be a place where the Episcopal Church really shouldn't be participating in voting for polity of the Anglican Communion.
According
Right,
to the
George?
primates agreement.
Right.
In other words,
However, Bishop Tanga Tanga, who was in charge of the ACC, he's the chairperson, president.
he was the
what's
elected
his title?
chairman.
Okay, said, guys, the ACC gets to determine who comes here. There's no way we're going to let an Archbishop of Canterbury try and muster and take over the communion. The ACC is a separate, independent organization, and if I want the primates to come in here, they're coming. So he invited the Episcopal Church, he invited the rest of the Anglican Communion, and sent out a special invitation to Kenya, George, which is another backstory. What happened there?
Well, in the run-up to the meeting, a number of provinces, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria, said that they would not be attending this meeting. One of the Kenyan delegation, the Bishop of Nairobi, who happened to be running to be Archbishop to replace Eliud Wabukula, and who also happens to have links to the Western churches, he wanted to go. And so while Eliud Wabukula was up country on a visit, he forged the Archbishop's signature on a letter to the other members of the delegation saying Eliud had changed his mind. And he printed this on the provincial website, and they all went off to Lusaka. When Eliud got back from out of town, he discovered the forgery. These are not words I'm making up, Kevin. These are based upon our first-hand conversations with the Archbishop of Kenya, where he accused and provided the documentation showing the Bishop of Nairobi forged his signature to participate in the ACC meeting. We took this information to the ACC, Josiah Wadawa Faron, who immediately blew a gasket, calling Eliud Wabukula a liar. And for his pains and for his forgeries, the ACC elected the Bishop of Nairobi to its standing committee. That's a little bit of a backstory.
Yeah, a little bit.
Fun stuff going on there.
It's fun stuff. I mean, would be no Anglican Ink or no Anglican Unscripted if it was not for I'm going to try and use a nice term, the vast information the Anglican Communion provides us daily.
Well, let's get back to Lusaka, because this is really
Lusaka. Okay, well,
now,
let's back up because you said, that's where you want me to start.
A bit of a bad rap. It's been cast in terms of, well, who was Tenga Tenga to overturn and overrule the archbishops and primates? Well, switch it to Tenga Tenga's perspective. The ACC has a schedule of membership. It has rules. It has bylaws. And the bylaws are not overridden just because somebody in authority elsewhere says that's what we're going to do. It would be as if a President Trump said to the U.S. Congress, I don't want you to seat the representative from Delaware. And he may be perfectly justified in saying you can't seat the congressman from Delaware. However, Congress has its own rules and is very jealous of its prerogatives and perquisites. So Tenga Tenga said, no, we're not going to abide by what the Archbishop says. They're not the boss of me, as my teenage daughters would like to say. So the American delegation, Rosemary Ballantyne Simmons, a lay delegate, Gay Jennings Clark, the president of the House of Deputies, the clergy delegate, and Ian Douglas, Bishop of Connecticut, attended the meeting. And they participated fully in the debates. Ian Douglas sponsored some of the resolutions. They talked about everything. They were a fully integral part.
That's
Ian
right.
Douglas, who had been on the standing committee, did not stand for re-election, however. So the meeting ends, and the reaction to the world is the Archbishop's primates agreement, it's shot. First test, it falls apart.
Correct.
So now, we're a year later. It's January, February, a year and a month after the last meeting, and an article is released by the Anglican Communion News Service. Again, there's some neat backstory. Last month, we released a copy of the Archbishop of Canterbury's letter of November, December, to the primates announcing the next primates meeting. And we had some commentary on this letter and what it spoke about, and we noted that the Anglican Church in North America was not invited this time around. We, if you will, broke this story and ran with it. Well, the Archbishop sent a second letter last week, but this time, instead of waiting for Anglican Ink to break the story, as he sent the letter, he had a story released by the ACNS saying, here's what the letter says. But then, in the second half of his article from the ACNS, it went into, and oh, by the way, the American Church did not participate, did not vote, did not have a say in anything at ACC 16 in Lasaka. Therefore, folks, everything is okay.
Yeah, don't go on implying something didn't happen.
This caused a bomb to go off. Because there are twin explosions from the left and from the right.
Yeah, well, from the right. Yeah, of course. That's what they're watching this show for a person, and you're doing great. You've not coughed since we pressed the record button, so we're gonna let you keep going. Don't stop.
On this, the article came out on February 1st. February 2nd, the 3 delegates from the Episcopal Church released a letter through the Episcopal News Service saying this article from the ACNS is factually inaccurate. It's false. It's untrue. We voted. We participated. I, Ian Douglas, proposed resolutions. This is just another power grab by the London people against the ACC. The next day, a man named Mark Harris, who is a well-known Episcopalian, he's a priest from the Diocese of Delaware, probably why I thought of the example I did.
Yes.
He's a former member of Executive Council, wrote an op-ed piece essentially saying the ACNS is in the fake news business. They're trying to set the agenda by spreading falsehoods. This is very powerful critique. And
Yes,
today, the 6th, Peter Jensen, chairman of GAFCON, said, we may be foreigners, but we're not stupid. We know what happened. This sophistry, the ACNS, because ACNS, meanwhile, kept changing their article as each new bash would come in.
It was kind of a news on the fly type situation. Yeah. All right. We would check the website and changed again. They added some commas, some facts, and some more fake news.
Peter Jensen said, look, what happened? What happened? We knew what happened. You're not going to fool us by saying that events that we know full well took place didn't take place. So where we are, and now the issue is Justin Welby spreading falsehoods? Is the ACNS a rogue operation with untrained journalists? Is there another hand involved? Well, let's just sort of go through it. ACNS has got some pros running it. They do a good job. It is a press agency, public relations agency, but at the same time, none of their people are dumb enough to print demonstrable falsehoods, things that you can just check and see that they're untrue.
You and I know all these people. I mean, let's back up a second. The staff there's pros.
Yes,
George. Yeah, I mean, this isn't some.
You can't blame ACNS. No. What's happening is that somebody in authority is tacking on stuff to the back half of articles. They've done this before. They had an attack. They actually had a personal attack on me article where they disputed something I wrote about the appointment of an Egyptian to the Primates Task Force. And then at the end of the article, and they said, oh, and by the way, this whole forgery story was refuted by Josiah Wadiwu. No,
that's good.
It wasn't refuted. He disagreed with it. Refuted would mean that, oh, Eliud Wabakula had said, oh, I was wrong. I actually signed this. I didn't, my name wasn't forged. I was never refuted. But somebody tacked on to this first story a claim that was demonstrably false. Somebody has tacked on to this next story a claim that's demonstrably false. So, is it Justin Welby? Is it Josiah Wadiwa Ferrone? Who is spreading these false things?
George, I'm gonna go here with a guess, based on what we've seen over the last year since the last Primus meeting. I'm gonna go with Ferrone. Now, I may be wrong because I thought for sure the Falcons were going to win. I thought Hillary was going to win. I thought the European Union would stick together. Am I wrong with Ferrone, George?
Kevin? Well, we don't know the answer, but let's use the little gray cells and try to figure this out. Justin Welby has been totally immersed in the problems facing the Church of England. Gavin Ashenden will give you more than folks. Tune into the next Anglican Unscripted and the last Anglican Unscripted, and Gavin can bring you up to speed on the emerging civil war taking place. I don't think Justin Welby has the time to go over copy being put out by the ACNS. It may be me, but I just don't see that. Who is doing this? Is it another staffer at Lambeth Palace? Is it Wadiwa Ferrone? Wadiwa Ferrone's management style is that of an African bishop, which is the big chief. You do what I say, or I chop your head off. The Stalin school of management is how we would describe it in the West. My guess, and I have no evidence of this, is my guess that Wadiwa Ferrone's personality and his desire are trumping the news sense of these articles.
If we're wrong, please ACNS refute it. Tell us who's writing these types of articles. It's hard to watch. You guys make consistent corrections consistently.
But see,
it's
the thing
becoming troublesome.
Kevin, if there were mistakes, a reporter, everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. Names, spelling, date, things that are easily correctable. And ACNS will have its share of tiny little mistakes like any other news organization based on the volume of stuff you have going out. However, the only mistakes that occur of this nature, of attempting to spin, attempting to
preempt stories,
fake news mistakes, are things that have been emanating out of ACC Lusaka and out of Josiah Wadiwa Ferrone's office.
Wow.
Could be totally coincidental. I don't know. I have said in print that Josiah Wadiwa Ferrone has been a mistake, that his behavior is a bit cartoonish at times. But frankly, when you've got both the left and the right disdaining what you do, either you're absolutely correct or you've really messed it up.
You're not the boss of me now. That's pretty much it. George, this has been a great episode for our Monday. We actually have some breaking news out of Tanzania for our next episode. Do watch that. Nice to preempt another episode. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger, and you have been watching episode 267 of Anglican Unscripted.
Scary looking. That's a relative, huh?
Yes.
So their Congers can actually have facial hair.
I guess maybe through marriage. I'm not sure.
Marriage.
His wife doesn't have any facial hair.
That's good. All right. Lord knows you can't grow a whisker, so I thought, we'd...
it is made up in other places.
It's right. Yeah. Really? That's rough. Look at it. It's all over.